It always starts with a rumor. One stray whisper on a Tuesday afternoon, and suddenly all of Cleveland is in DEFCON 1, clutching their foam dog pound bones and pacing in front of their TVs. The rumor? That's Shedeur Sanders. Yes, that's Shedeur, the rising face of the Browns, the quarterback of the future, the one glimmer of hope in an otherwise cursed quarterback timeline, is on the verge of being traded to the Cincinnati Bengals. And that, my friends, is how you spark a full-blown meltdown in Northeast Ohio.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Let's be clear up front. Shedeur Sanders hasn't been traded. Not officially. Not even close. But in the world of NFL drama, you don't need a signature on the dotted line to break hearts and shatter psyches. All you need is a good rumor, a rival team, and a little sprinkle of what if. The moment this hit the airwaves, it was pandemonium. Social media exploded. Reddit threads ignited. Sports radio hosts went full Shakespearean tragedy. Browns fans, already living on the emotional razor's edge, started spiraling. And somewhere, in a luxury suite bathed in high-end lighting and very low patience, Dee Haslam reportedly lost her mind. And you know what? Can you blame her? This isn't just about a player. It's not just about a potential trade. It's about identity. About pride. About not letting the golden child you finally landed get snatched away by your smug, grinning, slightly too pleased neighbors in Cincinnati. Because if there's one thing you don't do in Cleveland, it's hand your star quarterback to the Bengals. Let's zoom out. Joe Burrow is injured again. His toe, yes, his toe, has reportedly sidelined him for months. And in a division this brutal, where every game feels like a cage match, a team like Cincinnati can't afford to coast. So what do? Allegedly, they look across the state line and spot Shedeur Sanders, young, talented, poised, and already a media darling. He's got the arm, the IQ, the Deion DNA, and most importantly, the it factor. That rare combination of confidence and composure that doesn't just win games, it wins headlines. To the Bengals, Shedeur could be the perfect short-term fix and long-term insurance policy. To Browns fans, it would be apocalyptic. This team has been through it. Since 1999, they've had more starting quarterbacks than most teams have had playoff appearances. It's been a horror movie of broken promises and busted knees. But now, finally, it looked like they had something real. Something to build on. Shedeur Sanders felt different. Not just because of the talent, but because of the energy. The swagger. The sense that maybe, just maybe, this team had finally escaped the quarterback curse. And now, rumors say he might be on the move? To Cincinnati of all places? You could hear the sound of Cleveland's collective heartbeat flatlining. The Browns' ownership group, especially Dee Haslam, has reportedly gone into full-blown panic mode behind the scenes. And if that's true, if even the possibility of losing Shedeur has her slamming doors and making urgent calls, we can only imagine the internal storm brewing inside that facility. Because it's not just about roster depth. It's about reputation, about legacy, about not letting your rivals outmaneuver you on your own turf. And here's the sick twist. The Bengals doing this makes perfect sense. Burrow's out. They need someone who can keep the machine running. And grabbing Shedeur wouldn't just keep them afloat. It would send a psychological nuke directly to Cleveland's front office. It would be the kind of strategic checkmate that AFC North teams live for. And for Browns fans, that's the nightmare scenario. You don't just lose your quarterback. You lose him to them. You watch him trot onto the field in orange and black while the talking heads gush about how Cincinnati is brilliant and forward-thinking and the new dynasty in the North. Meanwhile, Cleveland? Left holding a clipboard, a handful of expired contracts, and a stadium full of fans screaming, "Why does this always happen to us?" This rumor has already done damage. Browns fans are spiraling, dissecting every possible outcome, trading conspiracy theories in comment sections like NFL doomsday preppers. What if he asked for the trade? What if Dee already approved it? What if the front office is that dumb? It's not rational, it's emotional. Because that's what this league does to people. The NFL isn't just about football anymore. It's about stories. It's theater. And nothing sells like betrayal, heartbreak, and interdivision espionage. If Shedeur Sanders even thinks about leaving, that's not just a trade, it's a trauma. But let's take a breath. Because here's the reality, painful as it might be, Shedeur is still with the Browns. This could be just smoke. A negotiation tactic. A pressure point. Something stirred up by agents or insiders or board media personalities trying to juice ratings. But the fact that this rumor has legs? That it's believable? That says everything you need to know about the Browns' organizational fragility. This isn't a well-oiled machine. This is a team always one injury, one tweet, one whisper away from total collapse. And when that's the environment, even a baseless rumor feels real enough to burn the whole house down. The Bengals, on the other hand, are playing chess. Maybe this rumor is just leverage. Maybe it's just a shot across the bow. But it worked. Cleveland is rattled. The fans are rattled. And if reports are true, ownership is very rattled. And the wildest part? Shedeur hasn't said a word. He's sitting there, stoic, silent, letting the chaos swirl while the league projects its hopes, fears, and franchise futures onto him like he's the second coming. Which, let's be honest, he might be. Whether you like the Sanders family circus or not, Shedeur is box office. He's ratings. He's already got the league watching. And if he did go to Cincinnati, that's a storyline the NFL would milk for years. Burrow and Shedeur on the same depth chart? That's not just smart football, it's brand building. And in today's NFL, that matters more than ever. But for Browns fans, none of that matters. All they hear is the ticking clock, the whispers, the betrayal. They've seen this movie before. They know how it ends. And the worst part? They might be powerless to stop it. Because if Cleveland's front office can't reassure the fans, publicly, that Shedeur isn't going anywhere, the panic will only grow. And if the Bengals keep fanning the flames, even without lifting a finger, the psychological warfare might be enough to tip the balance of the entire AFC North. We're watching a division unravel in real time. Not because of a game. Not because of a score. Because of speculation. And that's the new NFL. Rumors are weapons. Perception is reality. And right now, the Browns are bleeding public confidence like a punctured football. So here's the million-dollar question. If you're the Browns, what do? Do you come out with a strong, definitive statement? Shut it down? Tell the fans, no, Shedeur's not going anywhere, and yes, we're building around him? Or do you do what you've always done? Stay quiet, hope it passes, and pretend like nothing's wrong while the stadium starts to boil? Because one thing's for sure, the longer this lingers, the worse it gets. And in a division like the AFC North, weakness smells like blood. So, to the Haslams, to the front office, to every exec sitting in a panic room somewhere in Berea, do something. Prove that you're not asleep at the wheel. Prove to your fans that this isn't just another quarterback heartbreak in the making. Because if Shedeur Sanders ends up in Cincinnati, you're not just losing a player. You're losing your grip on the soul of this franchise. And Browns fans? They won't forgive that. So what do you think? Is this just smoke, or are the Bengals really playing 4D chess? Should Shedeur stay put, or would a move across state lines turn him into the league's next superstar? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're here for every twist, turn, and total meltdown of the NFL's never-ending drama, hit that subscribe button. Because with this league, the chaos is never over. This isn't just some spicy off-season distraction. This is the NFL's version of Game of Thrones, and right now, Shedeur Sanders is the golden prince being tugged between two kingdoms, one collapsing under its own delusions, the other sharpening its swords. And here's the real kicker. Shedeur hasn't even played a full NFL season yet. Think about that. One young quarterback. One unconfirmed trade whisper. And suddenly, the entire AFC North is holding its breath. That's the gravitational pull this guy already has. Not because he's the best QB in the league yet, but because he represents something Cleveland hasn't had in 2 decades, hope with staying power. That's why the rumor hurts. That's why Dee Haslam is reportedly flipping tables behind closed doors. It's not just about losing a talented player, it's about what losing him symbolizes. If Shedeur gets traded, if he even thinks about it, Cleveland doesn't just lose a quarterback. They lose the narrative. Let's talk about that for a second. Narratives in the NFL are everything. They're what get you primetime slots. They're what make free agents consider your city. They're what sell jerseys, drive ticket sales, and keep the media circus spinning in your favor. And for once, the Browns were starting to craft a story that wasn't about pain. Shedeur Sanders was supposed to be the beginning of something new. A clean slate. A fresh chapter that didn't end in a fire. He was charismatic, polished, mentally sharp, media savvy. And most importantly, he had that energy. The kind of energy that makes even the most jaded Browns fans say, "Hey, what if?" You could feel it. For once, something was clicking. Not fully, not perfectly, but enough to dream. Enough to imagine that maybe, this time, the Browns could finally crawl out of the dark hole of quarterback purgatory. And now, a whisper about Cincinnati has turned the dream into a nightmare. Let's unpack the psychological side of this. Because when a franchise like Cleveland hears that its chosen QB might be headed to their in-state rivals, it doesn't just sting. It devastates. The Bengals and Browns rivalry isn't just geographic, it's personal. It's two cities that represent opposite ends of NFL fortune. One, a perpetual underdog grasping at straws. The other, a team that rose from mediocrity into real contention thanks to a golden-armed quarterback and a front office that actually knows what it's doing. So imagine the optics. Cleveland fumbles another franchise QB, and Cincinnati swoops in like a smug older sibling, scooping up the pieces and turning them into treasure. It's déjà vu, and the fans know it. They remember when Carson Palmer came to town and made them feel like their defense was made of papier-mâché. They remember Andy Dalton lighting up the scoreboard while Cleveland cycled through backups like expired yogurt. And now, they're watching Cincinnati maybe, just maybe, prepare to do it again. With their guy. But here's where the situation gets even more delicate. Shedeur doesn't owe Cleveland anything yet. He's still in the honeymoon phase. He hasn't had years of injury mismanagement, coaching turnover, or locker room drama drilled into his soul. But he's not blind either. He's grown up in football royalty. He knows the signs of dysfunction. He knows when a front office is on its heels, when the fans are restless, and when the media smells blood. And right now, all three are in full alert mode. So what do you think is going through Shedeur's mind? Does he stay loyal to a city desperate to believe in him? Or does he start thinking about his own legacy, about stability, branding, long-term success, and realize that maybe, just maybe, Cleveland isn't where that happens? It's not about disrespect. It's not even personal. It's business. Cold, strategic, NFL business. And if Cincinnati is smart, and they're playing this beautifully. No leaks. No pressers. Just quiet confidence. Letting the rumor do its work. Letting the Browns unravel themselves in public while they stay poised and ready. Like a chess master watching their opponent blunder without having to move a piece. And if this was just a quarterback issue, that'd be bad enough. But for Cleveland, it's deeper. This touches every single nerve in their football DNA. Every draft bust. Every locker room implosion. Every injury that derailed a season before Halloween. It's all coming back. All at once. Because the Shedeur rumor isn't just a rumor, it's a mirror. It's showing fans what they're afraid to admit, that even when things finally seem to be going right, there's always a trapdoor underneath. Always a new way for it to fall apart. And honestly, that's the most terrifying part. Because even if the rumor isn't true, even if Shedeur stays, this week has proven that Cleveland's grip on hope is still paper thin. One headline. One toe injury. One whispered negotiation. That's all it takes to set off alarm bells and emotional meltdowns from the dog pound to the boardroom. Begs the question, how stable is this team really? Is this a franchise with a real plan? A foundation? A future? Or is it still teetering, still pretending, still hoping that personality and talent can paper over decades of dysfunction? And maybe, just maybe, is Shedeur starting to ask himself those same questions? Let's imagine the worst-case scenario. The trade does happen. Shedeur walks. Cincinnati gets their future insurance policy. The Bengals post a cryptic black and white hype video with some corny caption like, "New era begins." What happens next? Cleveland loses its mind. The front office spirals. Ownership enters PR damage control. The local media feasts on the drama like it's a Thanksgiving buffet. Every analyst drags them for letting another quarterback slip through their fingers. And most importantly, the fans leave. Not physically, not entirely, but emotionally, spiritually, gone. Because you can only have your heart broken so many times before you stop showing up in the rain. Before you stop believing. And that, right there, is the real danger of this trade rumor. Not that it might happen, but that it could. That it's plausible enough to shake a city. To rattle confidence. To trigger PTSD-level flashbacks in a fanbase already hanging by a thread. So what's next? The Browns need to get loud. Loud in the right ways. Loud with commitment. Loud with action. They need to put a stop to this rumor with the kind of energy that says, Shedeur isn't going anywhere, and anyone who thinks otherwise can take a long walk off the Cuyahoga River Pier. They need to show everyone, that this franchise isn't the punchline anymore. That they're building something real. That they're not going to let history repeat itself one more time. And if they can't do that, if they let this rumor fester, if they let Cincinnati keep playing mind games and the fans keep spiraling, then they deserve what's coming. Because make no mistake, this is a test. Of leadership. Of vision. Of conviction. And right now, the Browns are failing it in real time. So what's it going to be, Cleveland? Do you rise to the moment and fight for your future? Or do you watch, helpless, as your rival takes what little light you had left? This time, it's a so-called league insider claiming that multiple Bengals staffers have been scouting Shedeur Sanders' private workouts. You read that right? Not just watching game tape. Not just poking around his college highlights. Scouting private workouts. Translation? This is no longer just smoke. Someone's striking matches. And suddenly, the room gets hotter in Cleveland. The fan forums are no longer asking what if. They're screaming, why aren't we doing anything? Meanwhile, Bengals fans? They're sitting pretty, sipping Skyline chili, acting like they didn't just hijack the entire Browns offseason with one whisper and a pair of binoculars. But let's not get distracted. The real question here, the one that's keeping Browns fans awake at 2 a.m. with clenched jaws and white-knuckle scrolls through Twitter, is simple. How did we even get here? Because this shouldn't be possible. Not now. Not again. You don't just land a prospect like Shedeur Sanders, a guy with generational potential, charisma, and media magnetism, and then let his name drift into the hands of your division rival. You lock that up like Fort Knox. You build the damn franchise around him. You put his face on the side of First Energy Stadium, not let him flirt with the Bengals because of an injured toe across state lines. But here's the brutal truth. Cleveland never had complete control to begin with. Not of the narrative. Not of the locker room confidence. Not even of the quarterback market. Because for all their bluster and bravado, the Browns are still doing what they've always done, reacting. And in the NFL, you don't win by reacting. You win by dictating the story before anyone else writes it for you. Cincinnati gets that. They've become experts at manipulating silence. They don't announce anything. They don't leak. They just move. Quietly. Efficiently. Strategically. And in a league that thrives on chaos, that kind of calm makes other teams lose their minds. Just like Cleveland is doing right now. Let's be honest. If the roles were reversed and the Browns were the ones circling Burrow's backup reps while he limped through rehab, the Bengals fanbase would be losing their minds too. But the difference? Cincinnati would never let it leak this far. They'd shut it down before it hit airwaves. Before it hit Twitter. Before it hit the bloodstream of the fanbase. Cleveland? They're on day 5 of national panic. And you want to know the worst part? The Browns haven't said a word. No denial. No reassurance. No big, "we're committed to Shedeur" tweet with a well-lit photo and a caption like, 10 toes down. Nothing. Nada. That silence is loud. Every hour that passes without a clear message from the top, fans lose more hope. Not because they believe Shedeur's already gone, but because they know how this script goes. They've read this novel. They've cried through this movie. And the third act always ends the same. It's not just about the quarterback. It's about credibility. And right now, that credibility is circling the drain. You cannot build a winning culture when your fans are terrified to get emotionally attached. You can't build a dynasty if every bright light is treated like a trade chip. And you definitely can't convince a rising star like Shedeur Sanders to stay loyal if he feels like your vision is as shaky as your offensive line. Because here's the reality that Cleveland has to face. Players talk. You think Shedeur doesn't have other young quarterbacks in his ear? You think he hasn't heard what's being said in locker rooms across the league? That the Browns are chaotic. That they don't protect their investments. That the culture eats talent alive. That the front office is always one awkward press conference away from implosion. So if the Bengals are knocking, even subtly, you think he's not listening? Of course he is. Because he wants what every great quarterback wants: stability, respect, a future. And in Cincinnati, for all their flaws, they've given that to Joe Burrow. They've built around him, protected him, paid him, marketed him like he's the second coming. And most importantly, they've made it clear that the franchise rises and falls with him. Shedeur wants that. Every quarterback does. Especially one with the kind of platform he already had before he ever stepped onto an NFL field. Let's talk about that for a second. Shedeur isn't just a quarterback. He's a brand. He came into the league with more social media clout than half the teams in the league combined. He has sponsorships. He has film crews. He has a fan base that stretches beyond city lines. He is a walking marketing machine. And Cleveland has never had to manage someone like that. They don't know what to do with it. They want the talent, sure. They want the numbers. But they're not ready for the spotlight that comes with it. You think Cincinnati's not ready? They've been prepping since Burrow was drafted. They understand the machine. They know how to blend football and marketing. They know how to build narratives that sell jerseys and win games. Cleveland? Still trying to figure out how to run a 2-minute drill without calling a timeout they don't have. So, once again, the entire league is watching. Will the Browns finally step up, take control, and say, loudly, that Shedeur is the future? Or will they sit on their hands, let the Bengals keep whispering sweet nothings, and then act surprised when their franchise player walks into Paycor Stadium with a fresh fade and a brand new playbook? Because let's be real, if this trade ever actually happened, it wouldn't just be a football loss. It would be a brand death. The Browns would lose the locker room. They'd lose free agency credibility. They'd lose fan trust that's already hanging on by a thread. And worst of all, they'd lose the only quarterback who made people believe this franchise could be more than just tragic punchlines and maybe next year's. So here's the rallying cry. If you're in that Browns front office, do something. Don't wait for the next rumor. Don't wait for the next leak. Take back control of the story. Talk to the media. Talk to the fans. Talk to Shedeur. Get on a podium and say, this is our guy. Because if you don't, you'll wake up one morning and find your guy walking into your rival stadium, smiling for cameras, shaking hands with ownership and saying, excited to get to work. And then, you won't just be rebuilding a team. You'll be rebuilding trust. Rebuilding relevance. Rebuilding everything. So what's your take? Is this just another wild off-season rumor? Or is Shedeur Sanders already halfway out the door? Let me know in the comments below. And if you live for the twists, turns, and trauma of NFL drama, hit that subscribe button. Because in this league, the off-season is just another battleground.